A lot has been said about the wisdom of the body, how the body knows, how we need to listen to our bodies, how the body never lies, and so forth. But what does that actually mean in practice in the realm of sexuality and intimacy? How do we listen to the wisdom of our bodies in that context? And especially when our bodies don't go along with what we want them to do or what we think our bodies should be doing. How do we find the wisdom of our bodies in those kinds of scenarios? I'm going to illustrate you how to do that by using a real life example. So the other day, a woman came to me and she said, I am so in love. It's been forever that I felt in love like this. And I really feel that I have met my person. I mean, she's a great communicator. We have incredible chemistry. The sex is fantastic. And yet, there's this one thing, she said, that is really disturbing me. I notice that at times I am not fully present with her. It's almost like I'm kind of toning down the volume, and I'm scared that I'm gonna chase her away if I don't show up fully. You know, I have all these like beliefs from my childhood about how broken I am and how unlovable I am. So maybe that's what's going on with me. And then she said, well, the other thing is that probably I'm realizing I have an avoidant attachment style. And so in that moment, she did something that many of us do. We have an experience that we don't particularly like, or we want it to be different, and then we slap a story on it, an interpretation, a label. And while there's of course a lot of value in looking at attachment styles, it's not so useful to just slap a label on our experience, because when we do that, we close down the mystery of our experience and what it is trying to tell us. So instead of seeing ourselves as a process that is ever moving and ever changing and fluid, we have now boxed ourselves in, I am this. And then you're in a dead end road, because then what? Okay? So instead of doing that, I asked her if she was willing for a moment to put all the stories and interpretations to the side and instead to focus on the actual experience itself. So I asked her, when you feel that you're toning down the volume, how do you experience that? How do you experience yourself doing that? And that's an important question, because that question brings you back into what is actually happening in the body. And so she went inside, and what she said is, I feel it's in my eyes. I feel that at times my eyes are really present and I'm really with her. And then at other times it's like I'm looking at her, but my eyes are kind of like absent. They're not fully there. What she was experiencing was a double signal. And all a double signal means is that there are two parts that are going on at the same time. And both parts are important. So instead of saying like, oh, I should kind of force my eyes to be really present all the time, we say, okay, there are two things happening. One part of you is like really there and another part of you is not. Let's find out by giving both of those parts space. And so for a moment, I pretended I was her new partner and I asked her to play it out with me. And it was really magical what happened, because she noticed that when she was what she called really present, she would lean forward in her chair and she would be like really like into her partner, into this woman, and her energy was totally there. And then she noticed when she was more in that kind of like a little bit absent-minded or distracted, I'm doing it already, she started going back with her body. And she said, oh, wow, I noticed that as I'm going back, I'm starting to feel more grounded and connected in myself. And this was the movement she made. But she actually discovered that by pressuring herself to be present all the time, that was her old pattern of trying to adapt to what she thought the other person wanted her to be. And actually the signal of going back a little, that was the new thing that was emerging for her. The new thing for her was like, how can I be in touch with myself and connected to the other person? And the interesting thing was for me, as we were playing it out, was that every time she went kind of like back, from being really intensely connected to me and then kind of going back into herself, for me it was relieving too. Because it made me feel like, oh wow, this woman is able to stand on her own 2 feet. She's able to hold on to herself. The truth is that in any relationship, there's always a dance of connection and disconnection, of being really together and then wanting to feel your aloneness and your autonomy again. And what for her was absolutely magical, and she had no idea before we explored the signal, that instead of there being something wrong with her, this signal was trying to get her to explore a new way of relating, where she could both be really connected to the other person, but also staying deeply grounded in herself. So, if you would like to explore this for yourself and to explore the meaning of your signals, the wisdom of your own body, here are a couple of ways that you can do that. The first step is recognize the stories that you're making about the experience, all the interpretations and the labels that you have. And if you're interested in exploring the mystery of your experience, see if for a moment you can put all those stories and labels to the side. That's step 1, just to make space for exploration. Step 2, ask yourself, how does this experience that is slightly disturbing, how does it show up in the body, right? Like this person said initially, I'm toning down the volume. I don't know yet what that means in the body. But when I asked her, like, how does that show up in the body, she discovered it was in her eyes. So do the same for yourself. And it doesn't have to be the eyes. It can be any other body experience that you have. That is step 2, located in the body. The next step is let yourself amplify, zoom in and amplify that signal. So in her case, what we did is I said, okay, look at me and be really present in your eyes, and then really let yourself go into that state of like withdrawal and like disappearing, right? And let's go back and forth. So that's what we call unfolding a signal, right? And as you do that, the signal starts to become more visible and more embodied. And then the next question to ask yourself is, what might be right about that signal? So instead of saying like, oh, this is wrong, I'm looking at my partner, but I'm kind of half looking away, ask yourself, what might be right about this? So in her case, what she discovered, what might be right about it, it's an attempt to connect back into herself. And so once a signal feels free to show itself by getting asked a question like, what might be right about this signal for this situation, that's when the signal can start to reveal its meaning to you. So in summary, what I want to say is that all signals contain important information, and instead of pathologizing the signal and thinking that there's something wrong with you, see the signal as a portal, as something that contains important information, even if we don't know yet what it is. But it's a portal into getting more deeply connected with yourself and thereby deepening your potential for intimacy with your partner.